Good evening, I'm Hafiz Marzukhi, and these are our top stories tonight. Former Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib Razak is convicted on all charges in the 1MDB case, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky seeks a meeting with Donald Trump as renewed peace talks gathers pace. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Former Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib Razak was convicted earlier today on all charges of abuse of power and money laundering in the biggest trial yet in the multi-billion-dollar 1MDB scandal, a ruling that could have significant political repercussions. Now, Judge Colin Lawrence Sequeira finds him guilty on 4 counts of abuse of power and 21 charges of money laundering. Now, in his verdict, Colin said the contention by the accused that the charges against Najib were a witch hunt and politically motivated were debunked by the cold, hard, and incontrovertible evidence against him. He added that the evidence had revealed Najib had an unmistakable bond and connection with Jolo, who acted as the then Prime Minister's proxy and intermediary in 1MDB affairs. Najib has been in prison since August 2022, when Malaysia's top court upheld a verdict convicting him of corruption for illegally receiving funds from a 1MDB unit. His 12-year jail sentence in that case was halved last year by a pardons board. Now to global news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he plans to meet US President Donald Trump in the near future as diplomatic efforts intensify to end the war with Russia. The announcement follows a roughly hour-long discussion with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner on possible pathways to peace.
Earlier this week, Zelensky unveiled a 20-point draft peace plan, which he described as the main framework for ending the conflict. The proposal is a scaled-down version of an earlier 28-point plan previously discussed by the United States with Russia, a draft widely seen as favoring Moscow. Zelensky said key territorial issues remain unresolved in the revised plan, adding that a meeting with Trump will be needed to address sensitive issues. Meanwhile, the Kremlin said it is reviewing Ukraine's proposed peace plan and will present its consideration to US once analysis is completed.
Well, those are the headlines. More news coming up shortly after the break.
मैं एक एजेंट हूँ। आपका कोड नेम भी है क्या? टाइगर, लायन, इंटेलिजेंस में काम करते हैं, सर्कस में नहीं। आपके नाम पे एक अरेस्ट वारंट इशू हुआ है। I'm a suspect। कोई बहुत बड़ा गेम चल रहा है, इसमें किसी बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का हाथ है। बहुत टाइम के बाद मेरी सच में फट रही है।
The Family Man, hanya di Prime Video. Stream kesemuanya dengan Astro.
The United States has carried out airstrikes against the Islamic State in northwest Nigeria, according to President Donald Trump. Trump described the group as terrorist scum, accusing it of targeting Christians in the region. US Africa Command confirmed the strikes, saying they were conducted in Sokoto State in coordination with Nigerian authorities. Nigeria's foreign ministry confirmed what it called precision strikes on terrorist targets, saying the government remains committed to protecting all citizens regardless of faith. Trump previously ordered the US military to prepare for action against Islamist militant groups in Nigeria, vowing to protect Christians in what he described as a genocide. Nigeria continues to battle a deadly Islamist insurgency in the north, with at least 2,266 people killed in the first half of 2025, more than in all of 2024, according to official figures. Cambodia has accused Thailand of stepping up bombardments in disputed border areas even as both sides hold multi-day talks to end the fighting. The Defense Ministry said Thai forces shelled parts of Banteay Minche province on Friday morning, causing extensive damage to civilian homes, property, and public infrastructure. Thai media also recently reported that Cambodian forces launched heavy overnight attacks along the border in Sa Kaeo province, with several homes damaged by shelling. The neighbors' long-running border dispute reignited this month, breaking an earlier truce, killing hundreds and displacing nearly 1 million people. Cambodian and Thai officials are in their third day of talks at a border checkpoint on Friday, with defense ministers from both countries due to meet on Saturday. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet said he also spoke by phone with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who reaffirmed Washington's readiness to facilitate peace talks. Myanmar's military government announces a third phase of voting in its planned general election set for January 25th, despite the country's ongoing civil war. The election process rolls out in stages, with the first two rounds taking place on December 28th and January 11th, covering 220 of Myanmar's 330 townships.
State media reports that a third phase will take place in 63 additional townships. Junta leader Min Aung Hlaing has admitted that the election will not be held nationwide, as military forces remain engaged in fighting against a growing armed resistance that has continued since the 2021 coup. Political analysts say the military appears to be shifting its focus from battlefield operations to an electoral process. However, they warn that the chances of a credible vote remain limited, despite the junta's claims of public support.
Myanmar's junta is moving ahead with national elections this Sunday, despite widespread criticism over its crackdown on dissent. Adrian Pereira from the North-South Initiative breaks down the security situation and what to expect on polling day.
The violence continues, and with violence at this stage, it would be impossible for people to be able to travel back to their places of origin, to be able to vote. The conditions, whether it's physical or emotional or even socially, will not. It's just impossible to have legitimate elections. Let's say we assume that everything is peaceful and there's no violence. The reality is many opposition members, including leaders, are being detained. Those who are voicing out, student leaders, are being detained. So it has already put certain barriers to a genuine election and democratic practices. And what will happen is that it will only give the military junta an avenue to create this image that it's people's choice, it's democratically elected, and it will continue to build relationships with certain governments that still today haven't made positions.
With the Philippines set to assume the ASEAN chair next year, Adrian highlights how the bloc, alongside new member Timor-Leste, can continue dialogue and advocate for the dignity of Myanmar's people.
When it comes to superstructures like ASEAN, the image that the bloc of countries are actually representing people, in reality, if you count using our fingers, it's very few of the ASEAN nations are actually democratic. So we need to have an introspective look at what ASEAN is capable of in terms of its own track record. But the good news is Timor-Leste, as a very critical new member of the junta. So in the past, besides the Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim's strong critique of the junta, even though it has not really translated into practice, Timor-Leste will move the needle forward. And also the current human rights commissioners in Aicha are also pushing the boundaries of what ASEAN can actually do. So we have seen them proposing the different declarations, statements on peace, human rights in the region. So the environment is right. It is now time that ASEAN actually move the needle, and of course, it should also engage with the National Unity Government (NUG), which has been recognized by some governments abroad.
2025 may be remembered as the year the old order ended. Now, in part 2 of our Wu Says year-end special, Professor Emeritus Dr. Wu Wing Tai and Melissa Idris look back at the defining events of 2025. Here's a segment from the conversation about the pivotal role that regionalism plays.
Let's talk a little bit about these major problems. We always talk about climate change, biodiversity loss, migration. In the last episode, you talked a little bit about the challenges of the oceans. All of these problems clearly require collective action. But as I said, cooperation feels really hard at this moment in time. It feels like the superpowers are busy dealing with internal problems. So, what do you think? Is global governance actually failing? Are we seeing the unraveling of the old governance that used to deal with these major global issues?
Well, global governance has been greatly weakened, largely because the US had been trying to reassert its dominance over global affairs. So we look at the Security Council of the United Nations.
Yeah.
The US has been able to lead on many initiatives, but it has found itself to be no longer able to exercise the same degree of influence, which is why they have decided to call it a talk shop that is ineffective in solving problems. This is exactly what Donald Trump said when he addressed the United Nations in September. I see this as a temporary breakdown in global governance because of that we have to get around to dealing with the national security issues that have been created by the arrival of a multipolar world. Once you have come to some comfort and with new methods of how to handle the national security issues of the fact that no one can truly dominate, we will then return to a stronger form of global governance.
Okay.
We will inevitably have to return to a stronger form of global governance because of changes in technology, particularly the appearance of AI and the appearance of cryptocurrencies, which threaten to undermine a domestic control of the national economies and security because of cryptocurrencies. And because of climate change, biodiversity, and damage to the natural environment. So that needs a global solution.
Catch the full conversation on AWANI International and across our social media platforms.
That concludes AWANI International tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thank you for watching. Good night.